Rivals just had its first major balance patch. I spent the last few days trying it out, and I've gathered all the important details from the patch. I've left the full patch notes in the description, so if you're curious to see all of them, go check it out. But for the sake of keeping this video concise, I won't be highlighting small, individual changes, like Maypul's neutral special doing 1% less damage. I've also added timestamps for the video, so if you already know the contents of the patch and just want to hear my takes on a specific character, or on who won or lost the balancing roulette, or where I feel like the devs got it wrong, feel free to skip around. One last note before we go over the contents of the patch is that the devs wanted this patch to remove any annoying options in the game, and they want to get rid of tools that reward being uninteractive. So most of the cast got their troublesome tools nerfed overall. Let's dive into general changes before getting too far into specifics. Parrying got buffed on both jabs and projectiles, activating frame 3 against projectiles to mirror Rivals of Aether's numbers, and shaving off the lag of the parry on cancelable jabs, which is all the jabs except for Clairen's. Shields on the other hand have been nerfed. After pressing shield, you can't drop it for 7 more frames, making the option a little clunkier. Shield recovery time has also gone down from 20 to 25 seconds, but you recharge your shield for a portion of the damage done to opponent shields, which encourages aggressive play to empower your defenses. Spot dodges were also made just a little bit worse by adding 3 more frames to them. This gives opponents time to react and punish, while keeping it faster than a parry. Air dodging also got a pretty solid nerf. If you air dodge to the ledge, you won't get your ledge invincibility. I personally really like this change, since air dodging felt really strong in these positions. The last important defensive change is you can now tech immediately after another tech if you're hit again. This should add counterplay to characters like Zetterburn looping you with Shine and Dare, without removing the combo itself. And really quickly, before we cover our individual character changes, if you're rocking with the video so far, leave a like or subscribe. I'm a grassroots tournament organizer that runs free online weekly events in my server, so helping with the algorithm goes a really long way. If you're interested in those brackets, our Discord link's in the bio. With those general changes out of the way, let's check out our characters, starting with Zetterburn. Zetterburn's up special and down special have had their hit stun slightly lowered, meaning opponents can act out of it sooner and dodge his follow-ups, like up strong. His down special also can't reverse hit anymore, making him safer to edge guard. His back air was also made slightly stronger at low percents, making it not combo into his up strong. Overall, Zetterburn was in a really solid spot before the patch, and these changes all feel super fair, keeping him a strong place in the meta while removing some of the more troublesome and annoying parts of his kit. Ranno got a few more nerfs than Zetter, but I don't think any of them are too over the top. His down tilt has become notably weaker, being 2 frames laggier and the sour spot no longer combos. His side B is no longer automatically attack or jump cancelable, making it easier to interrupt his recovery. His strong attacks and fair sour spot now, which out-prioritize their sweet spots, forcing him to position his kill confirms more precisely, and his back air was given decreased damage and sends at a less favorable angle, with more lag. This means Ranno won't be able to spam it from ledge or in neutral against characters with stubbier hitboxes. These changes overall don't impact Ranno's high skill combo game, but instead force him to position better and be more attentive to DI to land his sweet spots. Wrastor, pretty similar to Zetterburn here, had very minimal changes. His slipstream no longer spawns when hitting shield, and his up special is made weaker at lower percents, meaning getting grabbed off 30 won't lead to a kill in some spots. His up B grabs ledge slightly slower, allowing you to punish him for not spacing it just right. I think Wrastor is already pretty strong going into this patch, and I don't think these changes hurt him overall, so I'm excited to see how he does in this meta. Kragg was one of the more oppressive characters going into this patch, so he got a lot of smaller sized nerfs. Picking up and throwing rock have a 2 and 3 frames added to their startup respectively. His up special is made 5 frames slower, making Kragg slightly more vulnerable off stage. There was actually a bug where the pillar was vulnerable before he could move, but thankfully it got hotfixed out. The hitstun on the pillar was also updated to reflect these changes, meaning Kragg and his opponent are still actionable in the same frame of him, using them and getting hit by the up B. This keeps the move strong as an offensive mix, but makes it a lot worse as a recovery. His down special in the air has more drift now to let you aim it a little better, but it also had 9 frames added to end lag, making it less safe to fast fall and then get another attempt at it. Back air was also made weaker by adding a hurt box to match his animation, and by increasing the end lag and landing lag by 2 frames each. This allows the move to continue to be a good combo starter, but keeps it from being quite as spammable and neutral. His up throw and down throw both got small nerfs, increasing their lag so that he doesn't true combo into options like Fair or F Smash. Overall, I really like these changes, since all of Kragg's strong options are still strong, but by making them 2-ish frames laggier, he becomes a lot more punishable on his strongest options. Fleet's up next. She was one of the strongest characters last patch, and in my opinion got hit a lot harder than Kragg and Ranno. Her side special is a little laggier, and can be countered easier both with the parry change and with it being vulnerable 5 frames earlier than when the hitbox appears. Her float isn't restored when grabbing ledge, meaning you can either use it before grabbing ledge or after, but not both, making her ledge guarding a lot worse. Her up air and back air both got some tweaks to not kill quite as early or do as much damage, and her nair lingers 4 frames less, meaning Fleet has to be a lot more precise when going off stage. The hardest nerf to her, in my opinion, is her air acceleration being greatly decreased. I think her quick air movements were what made her stand out from the rest of the cast, so I'm hoping to see some kind of compensation buff to her in this area. Making her kill aerials weaker and nerfing her ledge guarding seems okay to me, but nerfing her movement on top of that feels her feeling a lot clunkier and harder to work with. Maypul comes next. She got super minimal changes, and to be honest, I really don't think any of them affect her placement in the meta. Lily cannot hit opponents while Maypul's getting grabbed, and Lily removes the mark from opponents when she's biting their shield. I imagine mark being removed is a more impactful change than the first one, but it already got removed when you parry Lily, and parrying Lily got a lot easier this patch since she counts as a projectile, so the window's 3 frames larger. These changes definitely make Lily easier to work around, but don't impact the high reward Lily can provide with the traps. Clairen saw a lot of changes this patch. A handful of her tippers were scaled down, but not to a degree that makes her super inconsistent like Smash Ultimate's Marth. Just a little less rewarding if you don't play properly. Her run speed got a really decent buff, allowing her to be much stronger on the ground. Her forward strong was made to be weaker at early percents, but the scaling was increased, so it feels about the same at higher percents. Her back air was made a little less safe by adding more lag to the move, and tuning down the tipper stun, but it can still connect into down smash and other options as a true combo if you time it right. The change doesn't hurt her super bad, but it does make you play a little more precise. Her back throw had a few frames added to it on both its startup and its recovery to allow people to DI it better, but these changes feel a little silly with the run speed buff, since she can still connect into the F strong pretty easy now. Overall, I like these changes a lot for Clairen since she wasn't the strongest fighter in the last patch, and while she is definitely harder now, she should feel stronger overall. Loxodont got a lot of interesting changes. His forward special drops him slightly, so the aerial instant forward special will put him to a grounded forward special instead. His down special 1 and 2 got tweaked slightly to allow players to escape their dare follow-up, which felt really oppressive, especially when comboing down special from nair. His lava pools now last forever, meaning there's no rush to go pick them up, which is a great quality of life change. His down throw is now 18 frames shorter, so it's a lot harder to react to, and his nair got slight nerfs, slightly reducing his damage and adding a frame of landing lag. These changes seem pretty solid to me since Loxodont felt like he was in a rough spot pre-patch, but these quality of life changes, along some of his bad matchups getting nerfed, should allow him to feel a lot more viable as a solo main, without turning him into a top tier overnight. Orcane got hit super hard this patch, slowing down all of his specials. His neutral special and down special have 8 more frames of end lag, and the down special also won't stall him in the air anymore, allowing him to land on opponents with the bubble pillar. Overall, I imagine the stall change is good, but I wish Orcane was able to choose if he wanted to stall or fall like normal when using his down special. Speaking of down special, the first 2 bubbles spawned by down special will always be on the outside of the move, and the next 2 will be a little closer to the center, allowing for characters to parry more consistently, as well as ASDI being buffed 20% against bubbles, allowing you to float out a lot easier. His fair got a small nerf compared to the others, gaining 8 frames of ending lag and 4 frames of landing lag, as well as shrinking the hitbox to not be quite as disjointed, and it loses priorities over projectiles. This feels notably bad into tools like Kragg Rock, since Orcane can't poke Kragg with Droplet or approach with fair anymore. His forward special hurtbox becomes much larger and activates 10 frames before Orcane reappears, making him much more vulnerable when using it to recover to the stage. This move also can't grab ledge for another 10 frames, meaning that if you do teleport to ledge, you're vulnerable for a total of 20 frames, with an extended hurtbox. Orcane's weight got also slightly toned down from 104 to 100, meaning he dies a little bit earlier. Overall, these changes are really rough for Orcane since he lost his poke tools, his movement tool, his recovery tools, his air stall to help him mix up his disadvantage, and a lot of his combos and kill confirm setups, since you can't mix droplets or bubbles into a handful of moves anymore. Forsburn is last, but definitely not least. He got some new niche mix-ups to his recovery, allowing his up B to refresh how many times it can be used in the smoke if he hits someone with it. He also gained a hitbox if he does teleport into the smoke, which seems like a really cool change. Now he can also turn around when leaving the up B, allowing him to line up kill moves like Bear deep off stage. His forward strong cape is 6 frames laggier, but the knife hit is a little bit stronger. He also right now has a bug that allows him to cancel his cape into another cape, but I'm not sure if that's on purpose or if it'll be patched out soon. Now that we know all the changes, let's talk about who won and lost the patch. Overall, this patch greatly brought down the power level of the game, but Maypul, Wrastor, Forsburn, and Zetterburn all got the least amount of nerfs, so I'll mark them as the winners of this patch. They didn't necessarily get any major buffs, but I imagine they'll be stronger in tournament play overall. For our not winning or not losing tier, I'll add Clairen and Loxodont, since they got a few tweaks and some of their more problematic matchups got nerfed. I think they came out of the patch better off than some of the characters below them, but I'm not sure they'll be as prevalent as the characters quite as far above them. For a losing tier, I added Fleet, Kragg, and Ranno. They all got decent nerfs, but none of them feel so awful. A lot of the things that made them strong are still there, just tuned down to varying degrees. I added one last tier for their biggest loser of the patch being Orcane. Orcane would probably go in the tier above if he was starting at a power level similar to that tier, but he was one of the weaker characters last patch, making him our biggest loser. If I had to take a quick guess, I'd imagine this patch's tier list will probably pan out with Zetterburn, Kragg, and Forsburn being the best characters, with Ranno, Wrastor, Clairen, and Maypul all being really strong, and Fleet and Loxodont and Orcane not being in the best spaces overall. It's too early to order any of these tiers, but I imagine it'll look something like this. Overall, I think this patch was a step in the right direction. Small changes to the characters that felt strong, but not oppressive, like Maypul and Wrastor, seems to be the best way to handle them, since it keeps them healthy for the game, but tunes down some of the pain points when fighting them. Giving characters like Forsburn small buffs and new options allows the character to become more expressive, and rewards players for taking time to master the character. And slightly nerfing characters that were overly oppressive, like Kragg and Ranno, makes sense, since the characters themselves weren't problems, but some of their tools were definitely overtuned. However, I do think the devs were too heavy-handed when it came to Fleet and Orcane's changes. I think tuning down Fleet's moves and options was smart, but decreasing her movement options so drastically really holds her back, so I'm hoping she can get some kind of compensation. I think she's still viable, but as Kragg and Ranno fell from top tier to high tier, it feels like Fleet plummeted from top tier to low tier, which feels scary as a precedent for upcoming patches, knowing that your character might eat shit in a patch. Speaking of eating shit, Orcane got hit the hardest of the entire roster, despite him having the worst tournament results across the cast. I know the goal of the patch was to remove his annoying options, however he lost his best approach option being droplet and backwards forward air. So as an Orcane player, I feel incentivized to play even slower this patch. I think homogenizing his kit and making him play more scrappy without giving him any tools to contest characters that already outscrapped him feels really gross and an overreaction from the dev team. If I were to rework how Orcane was handled, I'd keep bubbles and droplets still strong, but add more counterplay. Being able to crouch cancel bubbles and parry them is a great change, so allowing droplet to be DI'd for more defensive mix-ups or changing bubbles' speed better approach than gutting the button's numbers to make them almost impossible to use. As I said, I think the patch was overall good and healthy for the game, but Fleet got hit a little too much in my opinion, or Orcane needs some kind of rework or compensation buff if they want to keep his projectile numbers so slow. At the end of the day, I trust the dev team, and I think about 80% of these changes are really well thought out and make a ton of sense. I think as the game ages and grows, these changes will get more refined, and patches will be able to accurately address problems. That just about wraps this one up, but if you're looking for more content, you're in luck. We have a playlist full of competitive Rivals of Aether content, and weekly online brackets in our Discord. The link's in the bio. Until next time, peace.